Thanks, Marco.
Thank you. So, good afternoon. I'm back. This time talking about a topic for the mainframe, which can be considered quite general because it's about running containers on ZOS. So we're talking about this to, let's say, advertise the fact that you can run the workload automation containers on ZOS. But this is a more general topic about running also any kind of containers on ZOS. So there will be a short introduction on zCX, what it is, some information about the prerequisites to use this feature, how you can configure the property file, which are the workflow steps for the installation. In this case, workflow is not a workload automation workflow, but we're talking about a specific installation workflow for ZOS. Then the zCX instance, how to connect to the instance. And then the final part is really how to import and deploy the containers on this instance, in particular the workload automation containers. So in practically, most of the session is quite general, is not really related to workload automation, but what you need to do to run containers on ZOS. Probably this is a task for a system programmer, but still it's a prerequisite for this feature. So I will show you just the most important information about it. So what is zCX? It's a new feature that is available since from ZOS 2.4. And what it does is to enable the deployment of Linux applications as Docker containers on ZOS, but not on a zLinux environment, but specifically as one standard address space of a ZOS system. So basically what you can do here is to start an address space on a ZOS system, which basically includes for a Linux environment to run Docker applications on that environment. In other words, the address space like ZNews where you can just take parts where you run Linux. What the run on these zCX are the ones that are certified for a Linux environment. So there are for this for or the architecture. So what we actually as part of the workload automation deliver the workload automation container, all the three of them. So the dynamic workload container, the server container, and the agent container uh, are now specified also for Linux, the Linux environments. And that way, if they are certified for the Linux environment, they can also run on zCX on the OS system. So basically, here we are talking about an interesting strategy on the mainframe, because allowing us to generalize the applications on the OS open a lot of different new doors. Basically, is to use the system resources of the image in a transparent way for contextualized applications. So zCX allows to bring Dockerized Linux application very close to the OS resources, without having need to support application and infrastructure into the system. The zCX instance itself includes all that is needed to run those applications. So, for example, all the capabilities that the zCX system provides through visa files and to enable encryption, disaster recovery, dynamic work, right, replication. I mean, a number of features that are available for standard other places in the OS system. The system can be available also, can be applied also to the zCX instance without having Linux applications running inside. So it is an interesting scenario. This supports a large number of COS, and basically all the ones that are certified for the Linux environment. In fact, there are many Docker images available to run to allow and the system to participate to some common blocks scenarios and other automation environments. So the concept is quite simple. The zCX allows me to run the Linux application in a DOS space. They were run on a Linux system. So what are the differences between a zCX instance and a Linux software appliance, including all the components needed to deploy and manage containerized application for Linux on the OS. What is zCX is not a full Linux environment. It contains only the part of the Linux environment of the Linux system that is necessary to support the command line. So it's meant to be a general Linux environment. A general Linux environment. So it's lighter than the Linux environment. It includes only what's necessary to run containerized applications, Docker applications on this. That's how we work requisites to deploy the system. There is actually because the be 14 or higher. And needs to include the container hosting foundation. And no, of course, you need to consider the zCX need the appropriate CPU, memory, and storage considerations for the system to run. This is from a software point of view, zCX is shipped as a new element of the ZOS operating system. Includes the Linux kernel, and the engine, and another component, the ZOS management facility or workflow that is needed to actually deploy the systems. And there's a requisite also on the version of operating system. So this one must be for the US level or here. So let's of the US US component your system administrators do, because it's used to provision zCX instances, but also other components, the operating system or other software. So based on the operating system. For deploying zCX systems, and the server with provision the system facility and particular serious management workflows. There are some commands to the CD from the console. These are the name of the commands. Is from the let's say the of the basically that to values that can be also provided in property or put them the iOS interface. We'll see that you can find the information for the zCX there in this input file or that from US. More than here you can see that that we start this file and some are to installation information like solution directory that to hold the zCX instance, so the zCX name, and there are more specific information on the registry directory, name, parameters, and relate to the configuration of the memory that you allocate for the instance, specify all the kind of information that I even address how you later access or you specify them when you start using zero. Let's take a look at workflow to run deploy zCX. Use the component, you can create a workflow. Here you can specify for the workflow you buy. So here you can specify by we put properties that we have analyzed. And you basically need to change workflow. You need to some characteristics of the workflow, the name, the use items, the workflow, the system, and some optional so security and some optional. And when you create workflow, what you get is a list of steps that you deploy zCX instance. So you can see the first step is gather IBM zCX either you get all input file or you can specify directly from the US workload phase. Right. In fact, this is a screenshot of the first step. You the decided to fill them before use most of the information the next step of the automation flow will allow you to specify the two one of automated steps. You will be prompted to handle the to execute the step, and we suggest you to do it in this way. So the button to automatically program the select step. Okay. I point basically automatically to the last one. So basically, what automatic to start the zCX instances. Is already deployed by the workflow. Do just start so basically what you need to do is to copy the command with the instructions. So once you have so this means that basically the instance has been deployed, has been provisioned. So what we need to do now is target on the system. Probably quite familiar from my service is the console where you can actually start copy, start command. You have this command was created, and after you start, you issue this command. Basically, what this containment is available. Listing of the configuration file. So this particular space system can use it to run files. This can be scenarios that I have been providing on mainframe, because here you may find that application on CLS maybe a better performance or security than running in a standard server. So it's an scenario in my opinion. For customers who have distributed components that can be deployed on COS and used together with the COS application. So if you have an IBM Z controller to deploy the that this can be an option. Maybe the configuration of a zCX is not fit, at least the first time that you do managing dynamic workflow console in this would be very easy for your administrator, because you don't have to install the dynamic workflow console. You just start with the instance of the dynamic workflow console. You can just start to use it. To use it, but the same goes when you want to create a new version of the dynamic workflow code or to upgrade with you stop the container, you deploy the new version of the dynamic so on the ZOS system to perform maybe 5 having the system running the machine move solving it on other space. You can think of other components that what I mentioned this proxy for transfer. You can decide the it's contained on 0s if that is better for your installation. So it is a very interesting opportunity. Let me continue with the presentation. Now you have an instance of zCX that is up and running. How you can connect to this instance? There are two simple ways to do it. You either can use an SSH command line, so you can connect via SSH to using of course the parameters that have been specified when you in the zCX configuration file. So basically the IP address of the zCX systems, or you can use secure FTP to connect to the instance. So with the SSH, you basically can issue commands, and through SFTP, you can deploy the containers on the zCX system. Let's see how you can import the containers. It is very simple. The system accepts only secure FTP protocol. So once you are connected to the system, you can issue the put container name command, and all that is necessary is that you must own the rights of the .tar of the container that you want to import. And you need to import it directly to the TMP directory of the instance. Of course, you need to consider how big is the tar file that you want to import and allocate enough space. So basically, once you have downloaded the tar file of the containerized applications you want to run on the zCX instance, you just need to put it through SFTP to the zCX system. So how you can deploy the containers? Here we are talking about the Docker command line commands that you need to issue to deploy the containers. So from the session, SSH session, you can use the docker load command with the path file and the name of the tar file that you put on the zCX systems. And once the command is terminated, you can just issue the run command, the Docker run command with the container name. And at this point, the container is up and running. What are the containers available? All the workload automation containers are in theory available for this purpose. So we certified for zLinux, and so they can also be run on zCX, all the workload automation containers, even the server part, which is probably not very likely that you want to use on ZOS, but in theory you can do it. The console, so the dynamic workflow console, dynamic agents and zcentric agents, they can all be executed on a zCX system. So basically, this is all in the sense that all the presentation shows which are the steps, which are the components needed to deploy a zCX instance. But once the zCX instance is deployed and started on your ZOS system, then you connect to it very simply. You can just put there the containers that you want to run, and with the Docker command line, you deploy them, so you load them and run. It is a very simple mechanism. Once the container is up and running, you just need to connect to your, for example, if you are doing that for the dynamic workload console, you just need to connect to your dynamic workload console and start configuring it. So what we have seen in this presentation are the characteristics of the zCX system, this new feature that IBM has provided on the mainframe to allow running containerized applications for the zLinux environment on ZOS. We have also discussed about the differences that are that exist between a zCX instance and a pure zLinux environment. You have seen how you need to customize the instance through the input property file and using the ZOS management facility workflow component. And then the easy part is how to import and deploy the containers on this zCX instance, in particular zCX, the workload automation containers. So that's all. Maybe I finished a little earlier than expected, but I'm open for questions. I know this is brand new, and probably you may wonder why you want to do this. But as I mentioned, using containerized components like the dynamic workflow console or others, new like the file proxy and so on, it is maybe very convenient from an administration point of view, because managing these applications in their containerized version allows you to have a very easy deployment procedure. It's not even an installation, and upgrade procedures. So your work to maintain all this, the dynamic workflow console would be really simplified. But this is also opening the door to other scenarios. So I think it's a very interesting new feature of the ZOS system. And I mean, we are already available to exploit this with workload automation. I think we are very advanced in this, in the usage of these new features with IBM Workload Automation. Any questions that you want to ask on this?
Okay, sounds like there aren't any questions about this topic. Are there any questions about any of the topics we've covered today?
Actually, yeah, there is a question about zCX because I don't understand what the end game would be with this. What is the ultimate that you were looking to use this for? Is it replacing physical servers inside the mainframe as instances of just Linux? Or am I completely missing the point?
No, if you mean that our long-term picture is to replace, I don't know, the mainframe engine with a distributed engine running on ZOS in this way with a container, I would say I don't think so. Not certainly for many years.
What about physical servers that are currently running dynamic agents? Moving them inside the mainframe and getting rid of the hardware that you're using for the server.
That is certainly possible.
Yeah,
that is certainly possible.
Because that's something I've always thought ZOS should be used for, to get as much server off hardware and into the mainframe as possible. It makes so much sense. But with this, with Docker as well, this makes even more sense, I guess.
Yes.
Whether you can deploy things really quickly and easily.
Yes, I agree. And if you take a look at the IBM website where the mainframe part where they talk about this zCX and the possibility to run containers on ZOS, there are also interesting studies about the performance that you can reach in this kind of environment. I'm not sure about the cost from the point of view, of MIPS or CPU use or storage and this kind of information. I guess we are at a starting point with that, so we'll see. But from a point of view of performance or what you can do on a mainframe box with this kind of architecture, it is very interesting.
Well, yeah, it's scalable as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Also, things like I've always thought, why do we spend so much money on cooling server racks?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, this is one of the reasons why IBM did this. They think that there's a future for this on the mainframe. So I can tell you that perhaps if this if this trend is well accepted by customers, maybe in 10 years from now we will have a common workload automation engine that runs everywhere from just on its container and does the same on every system. But it will take a lot of time. Right now, I believe that the native programs running on ZOS are more efficient. So it's not that we will substitute the components like controllers and trackers with this one, with the containerized version of distributed components anytime soon. But maybe in the long run,
Yeah. We'll see. Cool. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions? I'll take that as a no. I think everyone has asked what they need to and probably want to get on with the other things that they've got to do. Okay, I just wanted to say the replays and the